Hello, everybody, and welcome to another super fancy episode of the Michael and Patty Show. I'm Michael.
And I'm Patty.
Coming to you live, recorded from the Charlottetown Waterfront Yacht Club. What would the yacht club be if it wasn't on the water?
I don't know. Perhaps just a boat yard. Bunch of boats being stored.
Today, we're getting into something that I always find entertaining when I'm driving around, and maybe you, Patty, find the same. You drive by signage and you see certain terminology being used. Today, we're going to cover some of those terms real quick and then get on with the rest of the agenda. These terms, for example, might be things like new price. What does that mean?
It means, please come back and look at my house again. I've sobered up.
Overpriced.
Yes.
You also see things like you have new price, you have reduced price, you have, what's the one I use? Price improvement. Doesn't that sound fancy?
Sounds fancy.
They all mean the same thing. They mean the property was probably overpriced to begin with. Well, there's other things as well. For instance, cozy. And what we've created a 2-page document here. If you reach out to Patty or I or go on our Facebook group, we'll send this to you, or maybe we'll just post it. But it covers all of the different terms. So when you're looking at an MLS description or title, you can decode that and figure out what its real meaning is. For instance, cozy. You see this a lot in these new micro condos in the bigger cities where you can buy a condo that's 100 square feet and you're sleeping on your kitchen table. And this is without exaggeration. Cozy, you can make dinner, do laundry, and answer the front door without leaving the couch.
Yeah, that would feel very cozy.
Charming, old, just old.
Yeah, charming does. I do use that, or have used it, in overviews on older homes.
Here's another popular one, full of character. I always laugh when I hear this. It means it's old, weird, probably has a terrible floor plan, possibly haunted. The door frames are right angles.
Would kind of say that would be on the fence, though, because something that's full of character could also just perhaps stand out from a certain era. And whether it's perfectly preserved from the 60s or the 70s, 80s, character can be a good thing, but
we'll stick with old and weird. Because
Okay.
that seems to be the prevailing accurate description.
Okay.
Handyman special. The house is being held together by paint and optimism.
True.
Needs TLC. This really needs a priest. Great bones. Oh, I love this one.
Yeah.
This is one of these descriptions you look at and think, yeah, maybe the best thing to do here is probably burn it. Great bones. The only thing we could compliment was the framing because everything attached to it is a disaster.
Yeah, that would seem reasonable.
Original hardwood throughout. We ripped up the carpet and prayed.
Yes.
And for our Canadian listeners, original features, nothing has been updated since Trudeau. And they're probably speaking of Pierre, not
Justin. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, in fact, it says here the first one.
The first
I guess
one.
I should have read the rest of the sentence.
Yes, you should have.
This comes from one of the first showings I had when I started my career back in '98. Vintage bathroom. The toilet is pink, and we've decided now it's a selling point.
Yeah, and vintage bathroom also could signify there's carpet going up on the side of the tub, or you have indoor-outdoor carpeting. I've seen some really funky bathroom setups. So with regards to location, conveniently located. Well, what does conveniently located mean? It means that it's possibly close to a highway, so you can easily get to work. Your garden gnomes will vibrate. They'll do a little dance depending on how close to the highway you are. Quiet street. Well, quiet street, in my opinion, just means quiet street. But according to this, it means no cell service, which would be also a good thing sometimes today.
And it's something to look for when you're on Prince Edward Island is, do you have cell service and high-speed internet?
Yeah, actually, one of the agents in my office this week ended up pointing out that a property that she's going to be listing has 5Gs. She had 5 bars while she was at it. And she had said this property has excellent cell service. So that's probably going to be her opening line, because that is something to be desired on Prince Edward Island.
Absolutely. There's nothing I enjoy more in the summer than drinking a cold beer and looking at a cell phone tower in my backyard.
No, the cell phone tower wasn't in the backyard.
In order to get 5 bars, it's not 50 miles away.
Well,
So you're getting radiated by a cell phone tower, but you've got great coverage in a second head.
okay. I will look into that. Water view. If you stand on the toilet, lean out the window, and it's low tide. Well, I don't know the low tide. It would have to be high tide in order to be water view typically, so it's just up a little bit. But I usually call that peekaboo water view. Steps to the beach, 4,000 steps if you're looking to get your steps in. It's steps to the beach the way Halifax is steps to Charlottetown. A little humor there, but yeah, steps to the beach usually to me is less than a kilometer. What calculation would you use, Michael, in your overview if you were to say it's steps to the beach?
I would like to think steps to the beach would be within a distance that I can comfortably walk back and forth to my house or cottage without it taking an hour to do so. I'd like to do it within a few seconds, not 2 hours.
Yeah. I've seen some say steps to the beach and they're at least a kilometer away.
Reasonably accessible. A kilometer away, you're not going to haul a backpack and
Exactly.
tents and chairs and a cooler and ice and everything else, or a barbecue for a kilometer. But 100, 200, 300 feet would probably pertain to like 2 or 3 cottage rows back from the water.
Okay, the next two, again, with regards to location, private setting. Nobody will hear you yelling at the well pump, or at Siri sometimes too. And a nature lover's paradise, which translates into possibly the mice have squatters' rights, because there are some areas on the island that have a lot of mice, as well as a grocery store this year, which has been problematic for them, unfortunately. So we have quite a few of these real estate dictionaries, terms that you can, again, like Michael said, request so that you can become educated, maybe a little bit entertained, but understand what is actually being said.
Well, the funny thing is there's also the agent-to-agent code. Motivated seller, the divorce is not going well. Price to sell, price like every other listing, but louder about it.
Mhm.
This one here, we hear all the time. This won't last long, even though it's been on the market for 6 months or a year.
Yeah, it's a real good property.
Back on the market, no fault of the home. It was a fault of the home.
Well, it could have been the buyers failed, or the buyer's agent failed to ensure that the buyers were qualified.
Bring all offers, please. Anything, a boat, livestock, we'll talk. And we'll finish it with this one, which is absolutely true. Sold as is, where is. We know what's wrong with it, but we're not going to be telling you. In other words, this is our disclaimer.
That's good.
Moving along to subject number 1. Patty, there's a lot of new agents in real estate. And the one thing I've learned is if you are a new agent, don't make it your mantra to piss the listing agent off when you're presenting an offer with such a phrase. And this is what we've been hearing lately from a agent or two. They send the offer over and then they send this snide comment with it. And the snide comment is, we know this is all the property is worth.
Yeah. Or I know the market in that area.
And that really isn't the thing that you want to do as a new agent, which incidentally you have no experience because we've checked your biography. You've just got your license. You have no background in business or sales or anything.
If that's the case.
But
yes.
You're the expert at real estate, and you're going to tell the listing agent that this is what it's worth when you bring in your piss poor low offer, your low ball offer. Not only are you not making any new friends, but you're probably going to find you've got a 99% chance that offer is probably going to be rejected just on principle or spite.
Yeah, it just signifies poor communication skills. You don't know how to negotiate. You are unfortunately trying to posture and position, and maybe you feel a little intimidated by the listing agent. And this doesn't just apply to like a new agent as in days in real estate, but a new agent can also signify one that you could have been in the business for a few years, even quite a few years, but you had another job, you weren't a producing agent. So you're still going through the same journey and education process as, those of us who have sold thousands of properties to understand and have the knowledge base and the education that we have. So I do find posturing and positioning yourself like that right on the onset, I don't understand what they feel, Michael, they're going to benefit from doing that. And buyer beware, depending on the edge that this buyer's agent has, they may sabotage your ability to acquire the properties. So you really need to take a negotiation course to understand how to communicate, how to negotiate on your client's behalf. And you also need to do your research. If a buyer is willing, and I've seen this happen, a buyer is willing to purchase a property at X amount of dollars, and either a family member intervenes or the agent ends up inserting their comments and saying, well, I know that this property is only worth X. I'm familiar with the area, or it's not worth what they're asking for. And guess what? It sells, whether it's a couple days or a week later, for pretty much that price that it was listed at or fairly close to it. And you just cost your clients the property. So not a good approach to representing your buyer.
So the moral of the story is don't hire a pissy agent, hire one that can communicate. And one of the things that we could do is we could try the Columbo. Everyone that's probably over 50 years old remembers Columbo, the LAPD homicide detective that came across as a bit of a doofus, but he was actually super intelligent and non-confrontational. And maybe how he might present this. And two, the listing agent would be something like, hi, Patty. This is Joe, buyer agent Columbo.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at your beautiful property here, and we're going to be writing an offer. But I'm really having a hard time understanding where the value came from, and so are my purchasers. So we may be coming in a little low, and we mean no disrespect, but we're just trying to do the math here. And my purchasers are first-time home buyers, and they have 12 kids, 4 orphans, and my wife's pregnant, and I just lost my job. So we really need to stretch every dollar. So please don't be insulted by the offer we're going to bring you. And we're also going to accompany it with a letter explaining our circumstances, that we do not want to come off the wrong way by telling you it's overpriced. Because we're not saying that. We're just saying that the research that we've done, we just can't get to that number.
And yes, that's a very long way.
Or is that
Columbo.
too sucky?
Yeah, that's very sucky. I would just say,
drop the orphans.
drop a lot of it. Your beginning intro was great. I have buyer clients that are potentially interested. I would never say that I'm going to bring an offer, only because if it's a listing agent that has somebody else or, that is interested in that property, I've just given them time to be able to also come in with an offer, which then I just set my buyer client up for failure because now they're going to be in multiple and they don't get a chance to negotiate. So I would end up just saying, I have a client that's potentially interested in offering. We're not there yet. However, help me understand how is the price set? We're just trying to establish the value. And then I would shut up and listen to what the listing agent had to say. Well, this is where my seller wanted to introduce, again, real estate dictionary language means that's not my number. This is what the seller decided. Or they could say, well, yes, we've done our research. Well, would you mind sharing with me maybe some of the comparables you used for your comparative market analysis, just so that I can help educate my clients? Those would be smart ways to communicate instead of just coming off and posturing yourself right on the onset. You don't make friends that way, and you're not really working to the best interest of your buyer client.
What if you were to supply them with sales data that advocated your number? Let's just say it's a $150,000 lot. You're writing an offer for $130,000. would it not make sense to supply them the sales data that you're basing the value opinion on?
Absolutely. But you know what? That's not so painful. What I'm seeing is, say, your example, $150,000 lot, and they're coming in at 70, 80,000. This is what I'm seeing. And I just, why even waste your time doing that? And if the property is priced a little high, sure, I don't begrudge you trying, but I really think that kind of strategy and approach requires a dialogue between the two agents involved. I strongly feel that would have a far better outcome than just throwing this really bad offer and then making that statement on top of it. It's like the cherry on top of annoyance.
The statement being, this is what it's worth.
Yeah, just doesn't work.
Moving along, talking about advocating different values, one of the things Patty and I always suggest, over and above hiring an experienced agent, which Patty sort of touched on in the first topic, was hiring somebody that's done 1,000 transactions, that's been in business for 10,000 hours or 5 full-time, 40-hour-a-week hours put into real estate. That's what you're looking for in the form of an expert. Moving along to this next topic, we're sort of all over the place, and that's fine, and probably an expectation of not planning any of this.
Yeah, because this is totally unscripted.
Is the fact that a lot of agents will walk into a listing appointment, particularly agents that don't have a lot of listings or experience. They have no presentation whatsoever. They're going into this appointment all willy-nilly. And the seller, let's just say they bought the house for $500,000. They want to sell it now for $850,000. They've pulled this number out of the air. And of course, what does the agent do? That agent wants the listing because they're not an appraiser. An appraiser just gets paid to put a price on it based on scientific data and doesn't really care where it comes in at, as long as it meets the parameters of the person paying for the appraisal in the terms of how many days it can be on market to sell, typically 90. This agent is sort of like putting the fox in the hen house, and they want that listing. So the seller says, I paid $5 3 years ago, I want to get $850. So now they're trying to build a case for $850. Even though it's in an area where there's 300 other houses, there's lots of transactions, there's sales within the last month, there's all kinds of comparable houses, it's cookie cutter city. But what they're doing is they're saying, well, I can't get the number up there. Well, you can't get the number up there because there's no reality that allows you to. So what they start to do is they start to pull data from other markets because, and this is the funny part, they can see it if they stand on the chimney. In other words, they're in community A, but they can see community B, C, and D, which are much better communities. So since they can see them, they're going to use those as comparables. So the warning to this is, if you're pricing your house or if you're buying a house and you're doing a reverse CMA, which Patty and I always suggest doing prior to making an offer, make sure they're not pulling data from areas that have nothing to do with the property you're looking at. And in many cases, it can be just a street, or it could be a river, or it could be a part of town that separates the B or C grade location from an A+. Have you seen that before? You go into a city and don't go past this street, because soon as you do, values go down. Nobody knows why, but they do.
Yeah, and I have seen that in different communities around the island where they will pull in sales data from, again, there's A, B, and C grade locations and subdivisions, and you can get really hyper-local streets. And they're going to grasp and pull one from an area that, yeah, it might be a similar house, but the location, which again, location is everything, is not as similar or superior as the other one. So you want to be very mindful if you're an agent listening to this and you are trying your best to tell the seller what they want to hear. I warn you to just hold firm. Your job as a professional is to tell them what the data is saying or your interpretation of the data. And make sure you preface it as that. This is my interpretation of the data. And if you are a seller and you have an agent that has said, because I know I have this year, I've done a few CMAs where I don't think the sellers, because they've just ghosted me, like the evaluation that I provided based on the data and my research. And they're not on the market yet, but they're just not responding to me. And I know one of them, there was a family member that said they were hoping for more. Well, that's not to say you can't introduce it at a higher price, but my job, which is the same as an appraiser in some sense, this is what the data says. I don't want to buy your listing because I don't want to have to backpedal and justify down the road. If you want to introduce it at a higher price, fine, introduce it at a higher price. But as long as I've presented the data with accuracy and fairness, I'm not going to be the one that has to backpedal and change my initial meeting with my client and say, well, I thought it was worth, $650. It turns out it's actually only worth $575. I don't want to be put in that situation and position. That's for the buyer or the seller, to own. So be aware of that. However, do our job properly.
And why do agents take listings that are grossly overpriced?
Well, I will tell you, okay, this goes back to like real estate dictionary. An agent, would you take an overpriced listing? And if someone were to ask me that, I would say yes, as long as it's on the pretense that the seller acknowledges I have provided accurate data and this is where they want to introduce it. But the other thing is, if it's in a high area where I know high visibility for my real estate sign, I will end up generating other business because buyers driving in the area will see me or other sellers as the local. This must be the local realtor, the local expert in this area. So I'll get more business potentially down the road just by having my sign there, even though I know that property is not going to sell.
Moving along, it's tourist season, and Patty and I'm sure all the other agents are receiving texts that a lot of times seem somewhat ambiguous or may actually echo the texts and emails we're getting from fraudsters. Bank fraud is at an all-time high. I don't know about you, but I probably get about a half a dozen warnings a week from different places warning about phishing schemes and Trojan horses. And it was just this week we had somebody that actually had a phone number with no voicemail, and they're trying to get you to click on a bunch of links. The point being, if you're going to message an agent, do more. And I had this week where I get, do you have time for a call, ? Do you ever get that from a number that you don't know and isn't in your phone?
Just a random text? Yes.
I get that all the time. 99% of it's fraudsters, but there's always that 1% that's genuine, and in this case it was. But I did ignore it. Eventually we did form communication because he became a little more detailed. But if you're going to message an agent, don't send them a text like that. Make it specific. Hi, I'm Patty. I'm living in Charlottetown. I'm looking for a house between 3 and 5 with 3 bedrooms and a garage. I noticed your listing in here. I don't have an agent right now. You have some time to talk about this listing. I may be interested, and I don't have a house to sell. You'd probably be more receptive to that than flipping a coin on, do you have time to chat, ?
Absolutely. Because I don't know who you are. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what I'm about to walk into, or if it is some sort of scam. A little bit more information. What's your name? Are you a buyer? Or are you a seller? What's your reason? What is the agenda for this call? The other thing is, if you provide even a little bit of information, you don't have to necessarily get into too much detail like Michael was suggesting. It allows me to prepare. If you put the address that you found my property sign on, or I can do some due diligence, or just any real estate piece of land or property, I can at least have that up on my screen to make our call more efficient and try to get as much information and have everything available to me to answer your questions better. So that's why I like also a little bit more information. But I did have, Michael, so the one, because I know they sent you an email, And they sent my office probably about 3 or 4 emails just hitting us all night, this one particular inquiry. And when I responded back, they said, sorry, because when I did call first, always pick up the phone first if you have a phone number. But it said, this caller is not accepting calls at this time. I went, whoa, that's interesting. So then I went ahead and I sent them an email and I said, I tried to send you a voicemail message. However, there was no option to do that. You're not accepting calls. And the response back was, I am at work. I can't. Please email me. Only email me. And I said, okay, great. How can I help you? And then the next one was sending me a Dropbox link or some link that looked like a Dropbox link and said, please click on this because all my plans and goals are outlined in it. And I'm sorry, if you can't pick up the phone and speak to me, I'm not clicking on whatever links, and I'm not going to spend my time because this is what they said. Take the link and do your research. You'll see that it's a safe link. I'm not doing it. I just moved on from that particular inquiry.
They sound perfectly trustworthy.
Yeah.
I can't talk on the phone. My voicemail doesn't work, and click on a link.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that right away. Do you have any other links I can click on as well? In Canada, we have HST, the Harmonized Sales Tax, which applies to vehicles, among a bunch of other things. And sometimes, and I don't know about you, vehicles, trailers, things that have to be registered. Your ownership has to be registered, and at that point, you pay HST on the purchase price of those vehicles or trailers. This has to be dealt with in your contract, and a number of things have to be considered. Number one, who's responsible for the HST? Number two, your financing. If you buy a house and it's $400,000 and there's a $150,000 Ferrari included in the purchase price, you want to make sure that you can still get financing because the bank is not in the business of holding mortgages on cars. That would be a separate financing deal. Make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
So put it in the contract. Anything to add?
No, but it is a really good point. If somebody is trying to sweeten the pot by adding some items like that, make sure that everything is clear. And do not rely on an email or a text. If it is not in the contract, it doesn't exist. Everything needs to be documented, just included in the contract agreement. The lawyers will have a better chance of advocating and fighting on your behalf versus, well, we agreed for this on this side. I would not be doing side deals. I don't agree along with them.
So regardless of what province or state you're in, always specify on the contract who's responsible for that provincial, federal, or state tax and make sure that it's not going to affect your financing or mortgage capability.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, if you are going to be selling, if it's just like furniture items and that can be something separate from the contract, so you're not paying real estate commission fees and that on it. If it is something that the seller is okay just throwing in, that's different. But a lot of times, I would just suggest we are not, as real estate agents, we are not furniture people. We are not car dealers or car sales people. I would keep that outside of the contract.
Moving along to odd things found in houses. I was in a house the other day I was actually doing a minor renovation on, and I decided to remove the door and found that this door weighed an absolute ton. So if you removed a door and it weighed a lot, what would you automatically assume, assuming the fascia is wood?
That it's just a solid wood door.
Well, that's what I assumed too, until I cut it in little pieces so it was easier to transport because it was so heavy and I didn't want it. It was filled with cement or like drywall compound.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is if you're going through a house and you're tapping on the doors like I do to figure out if they're solid, they may not be solid wood. They may be solid drywall.
Interesting. I don't know what the logic would be.
To give you the feel of a hardwood door at a cardboard price. And in addition to that, I would think it probably offer a level of fire protection, say in a furnace room or something like that, or
Okay.
utility room.
Okay. That's
So-
an interesting idea.
So it has function, but it also has a level of deceit or misrepresentation as well. Because you're thinking, oh, geez, this is a nice, solid hardwood door, only to find out it's not. It's just a 0.5 millimeter of veneer that looks like wood filled with what looked like to be drywall cement.
You never know what we are going to come across.
You never know.
And you being in the business for almost 30 years, Michael, did you ever come across a door filled with?
No.
No, see, you just never
That's why
know.
I found it was interesting. Patty, I had a agent, yes, they were a newbie agent, decide to book a showing on a waterfront home which had beautiful aerial photos depicting the high bank of this cottage. So they drive up to the cottage, and I get a text from the agent that says, well, they don't want to go through it because it's on a high bank. How would this make you feel after the vendor has just spent 24 hours preparing the cottage? She works shifts, so it wasn't the best timing for her because she had no sleep. They vacated the cottage only to find out that the purchaser and purchaser's agent don't want to go through the cottage because obviously they didn't look at the location or any of the aerial photos to see it's a high bank. If you are looking at a property on the water, maybe one question you might want to ask yourself is, what's the bank like? What kind of water frontage is it ocean? Is it river? Is it pond? Is it, the other day you were talking about mosquito-infested swampland? And how high is the bank before you book the showing?
Yeah, if that is something that is deemed important to you because you have little ones or pets, ask that question prior to, because I know we've covered this, Michael, on previous episodes, how much time a seller will go through just to ensure that the buyers, views the home in its best light and it is all clean and it has neutral, clean smells. And to have somebody just drive up there to do an outside viewing despite the hours that went inside, I personally find it rude because I know when I sold my place years ago, I have 4 children, and the amount of work and how much effort I had to make to get each one of those little bodies out the door and then to sit in the vehicle while I'm continuing to mop all the way to the door so my place can be shown at its best light. I know a normal person probably would have spent 3 hours or so, 4 hours pushing it. When you have little ones, that almost doubles in time.
So check the location. You can do a number of things. There's dozens of utilities. You can see them from the ground, from satellite. You can bring up soils maps. You can do all kinds of stuff. Do that before you book the showing, or maybe drive by it if you are in the area. Moving along here, I'll let you cover this one. You're moving from another province or state. Can you handle both ends of the transaction?
You can handle both ends. Don't know, what does this say? Even if we pick I don't know what that says. Agent.
I've got age. We can pick your age. You must be what, in your 30s?
Yeah, sure. And toast your house with. You really want your own representation. And I'm not sure
what this means is this, okay? Someone comes along, and this actually happened to me last week. They say, we live in this province. We're looking to sell our house on this end. We're looking to buy something in Prince Edward Island. Can you help us orchestrate the entire process to make it seamless and enjoyable and like living every day in paradise? So they don't know any agents on that end. They don't know any agents on this end other than yourself. And they want you to help them orchestrate, who do they list with there? And then how do they write the contracts? And how do we make this stress-free? Because if you have no communication between their agent in the other province and you, it can sometimes become very difficult because you're on 2 completely different channels.
Okay. Well, you should have introduced that so that it was clear what it was I was covering. And yes, I would, understanding the pretense or the premise of this particular topic, seamless communication. You want to have a very good realtor. If you don't know a realtor in your area, but you feel confident in the realtor in the area that you're relocating to, just again, full disclosure, your realtor in wherever you're moving to, or vice versa. You may have a realtor in your area and you're hoping to find a good one in the area you're relocating to. Your realtor can, or a realtor can find you another realtor in whatever area. They usually end up doing it as a referral base. So there's a 25% typically. Typically, that's what you'll find. A 25% referral that, will be paid between the two agents, which also then kind of creates a contract agreement between them that other agent will ensure, because they're going to have to communicate. Both have a vested interest now in you to make sure that they provide a high level of service and set you up for success. So just again, for our listeners, if you are a seller and this is the situation and you are trying to get one realtor to find you another, make sure you're also clear. Like, these are the skills. I mean, if you do trust the realtor that you already have, I'm assuming then they have negotiation skills, marketing skills, great communication skills, that you want them to find you the same where you're going. Yeah, so that it's very, very important.
So you can orchestrate both ends and make it seamless.
Yes, with
the help of another agent.
Correct.
That's licensed in that area.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say.
Awesome. So an agent asks you, they're looking at a building lot, and this is sort of real estate 101, learned this the hard way a few times. They say, have you seen the survey markers? What would you say to them?
Have I seen the survey markers? If I have not seen the survey markers, I would say I have not seen the survey markers.
Okay, let's just say you've seen the survey markers, but you know where this is going.
Okay, and I get this.
They're going to warranty those markers.
Well, I'm not going to warranty. No, that's the whole thing here. I will not warranty markers. I know in other areas where I have lived, those are sacred. You do not touch them. You do not move them. It is illegal to be lifting a survey marker and putting it somewhere else. On PEI, years that have gone past, it would be, I am aware, not that this is right, but I am aware of stories that somebody would lift one up just so they could cut their grass properly around it and then plot it back down. I'm aware of people wanting to acquire a little more land, so they just kind of inch it over a little bit. I know of stories. I don't know of anyone in particular, but this is why I would not warrant. Yes, there's the survey marker, so that's your property.
I've seen situations where the homeowner or the lot owner has moved the survey marker maliciously across the street, which was grass. They put a PVC tube on it, and then they gave the listing agent a survey that wasn't valid, that made it look legitimate, and the property was completely misrepresented. So the bottom line is, even if I've seen the survey markers, I'm not a surveyor. I do not warranty or claim they're in the right position. And you as a purchaser, the only way you're going to know that is if you have a survey done, or it's a condition to get the vendors to do that for you.
Yeah, if that is deemed important or you question at all, then make it part of your agreement of purchase and sale that it gets repinned, where a surveyor just comes out and validates, yes, these are correct. There might be 3 pins and the 4th one's missing, and you just want to make sure that you're aware. I know on my personal property, I was told that a certain line, there was a couple rows of trees in my backyard that, this was, your property started here. I put up a fence for my dog, and the fencing company made sure that they put it in. They thought at least a couple feet inside so that there wouldn't be no dispute. They did have my survey. However, during Fiona, Michael, the people behind me I got more property because one of the trees was down, and they were the original builders of the property behind me. They said, I had thought this was like on the line, this property, and they made it very clear that is your property. We were here when the first owners of this property built. You have to deal with this Fiona mess. So therefore, that's what I had to do. But it became very clear. I don't have the survey marker in that back corner, but these guys made it very clear where it was. And it was Fiona that presented that to me.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you that these people have moved somewhere else?
Assuming they have moved somewhere else, as much as Fiona was not great, I acquired more property because of it. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Michael and Patty Show, otherwise known as MAPS, PEI's podcast that helps guide and navigate you through the real estate process and a little bit of Prince Edward Island. And if you're looking for an extension of this, we do have the Moving to Prince Edward Island from the Michael and Patty podcast, and that Moving to Prince Edward Island is spelled completely out. It is a private Facebook group. We don't do any solicitations. We won't be having properties listed on there to try to solicit you to perhaps...
Except my listings.
Oh, no. I'm not interested in doing this. This should be a safe place for our podcast family members to be able to go there and be educated and informed, which is exactly what the whole reason for this podcast is. I just wanted to do a quick featured Toolbox Tuesday every Tuesday. For almost a year now, I think we have had the private Facebook group going, Michael. I feature a complete toolbox on a certain topic. The one I just want to showcase today is all about insulation. Everything that you need to know about different types of insulation and questions that you could and possibly should ask is all on an upcoming Toolbox Tuesday.
Now that you mention that,
yes,
there's 2 programs right now running by the Prince Edward Island government. One is for low-income homeowners where they pay for insulation, and the other one is for, regardless of what your income is, they subsidize part of the installation. So something to keep in mind. So you need to listen to these podcasts right to the end because this is where we keep the juicy stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Have a great day. Thanks for listening.
Have a great day.